I need to bust a myth about politics and economics, and that's the myth that libertarianism is about capitalism and only about capitalism, and is about unregulated capitalism and control of economics and society by capitalist interests, by the owners of the means of production, the factories, the workplaces, etc. So I'll concede that about 3/4 of the Libertarian Party are capitalists, and that they draw no distinction between free markets and capitalism. But about 1/4 of us to 1/3 of us in the party, and a larger amount of us in the movement at large, is the libertarian movement, not just a party. We do believe that voluntary socialism would be allowed. Like even Ron Paul said that communists and socialists would be free to try their ideas, and although he thinks it would lead to failure, he believes they should be free to try it. And of course, there would be no responsibility on behalf of anyone else who doesn't feel like it to bail them out. So that might not sound like too much freedom for communists, and of course you have more freedom for communists in a communist society, unless it's like authoritarian communists, in which they would suppress variants of communism, and they wouldn't let the whole Mao, several hundred streams of thought, whatever the whole idea was, they wouldn't let that flourish. But communists would have more freedom in a libertarian society than they do now. I can tell you that. You know how I know that? Because libertarians are against parts of the Civil Rights Act of '64, and they're against the Taft-Hartley Act. The Taft-Hartley Act is what allows right-to-work laws to exist, and it also limits our right to boycott. So we wouldn't have right to work, we wouldn't have limitations on our right to boycott, and we wouldn't have laws that stop former Communist Party members from being union negotiators. That's a law that's currently in place right now because of regulated government that's supposedly not capitalist. We don't have capitalism, and we don't have a pure public sector either. It's all mashed together, and there's Harry Truman propaganda telling us that anything called public is socialist. That's because FDR's critics were worried about socialism, and so they called the public sector stuff he was doing socialist. So unregulated capitalism, it almost more accurately describes what we have now than what libertarians want. Because libertarians want you and me to be able to regulate these companies through not buying their products. We don't have a right to not bail these companies out anymore. They keep taking our money and giving it to companies that we hate, that are fraudulent and corrupt and committing crimes that we might want to boycott and don't have the full freedom to because of the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947.